Welcome to this edition of Cup Chat with Birding with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. Today we're talking about shade-grown coffee and its benefits in conservation as well as the yumminess of it. We hope you enjoy.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Cup Chat with Birding with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. We took a week off last week. No cell phone service. One of us was out of the office. So we're excited to be back this week, and we have a super special guest. And Maureen is super excited about today's topic. So Maureen, you want to share a little bit about what we're talking about and introduce our special guests?
Yes, so today we're going to be talking about shade-grown coffee and why that is bird-friendly coffee and kind of what those things mean. And joining us today, we have Adeline Henchett from the Smithsonian Institute. And Adeline, we just recently met, so as in a few minutes ago. So we've met before on email before that. But I'm going to let you introduce yourself and what all you do with Smithsonian Institute and bird-friendly coffee.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on. As they said, I'm Adeline, and I'm the Bird Friendly Outreach Coordinator and Research Assistant with Smithsonian Bird Friendly. So in my position, I work with sort of the certification program to coordinate communication between roasters, farmers, and the public, as well as supporting our various research projects that we have going with the Bird Friendly program. With the overall goal of maintaining and conserving quality bird habitat. So that's my position. And just for some background, I've always been personally and professionally interested in conservation, and kind of through my own experiences, both with field work with birds, as well as in the coffee industry, working as a barista for a lot of years. It kind of led me to this really interesting intersection between bird conservation and coffee production that is Smithsonian Bird Friendly.
So you were a barista. You made the coffee. Did you do the cool little designs on top and everything?
Yes. Yeah, so that's how I kind of first became involved with the coffee industry and started to learn more about where coffee comes from and how it's grown and how that affects birds and other wildlife and forests in general. So yeah, and then my education with wildlife ecology in Spanish kind of led me to this perfect intersection of this program that kind of involves everything that has to do with coffee and conservation, and many of our farmers are Spanish speaking, so yeah.
I'm even more excited about this now that you have a background in coffee as well as wildlife ecology. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have a lot of our viewers who are, high school kids or thinking about going to college, but where did you do your degree? Because this is a really interesting thing about how you ended up in this cool position that you're in now.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm originally from Wisconsin, and so I attended the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, and they're a really great natural resources school. They do a ton of field work and kind of train all of their students in fieldwork experiences. So I started out there and then went into field jobs pretty much right after that. And then that led me to an internship with Smithsonian initially, and now I'm working with them full time.
Cool.
Wonderful.
Well, so we wanted to have you on today to talk about this bird-friendly coffee, and we had Emily. Sorry, were you going to say something, Emily?
No, you're good. Go for it.
And we had this year we had Birds and Beans donate coffee for Birding the Border, and they donated some shade grown coffee for us, and that was really exciting. And so it said their logo and everything on our coffee bar, and we talked a little bit about that beforehand, but I feel like we didn't really dive into it. And so can you tell us a little bit just about what does bird friendly coffee mean and why does that matter? Why do you have a job?
Yeah. Well, I'll give a little bit of background, I guess, first, for those who don't know. The bird-friendly coffee certification was actually developed by Smithsonian scientists in the 90s. And this was in response to the first wave of kind of widespread and steep declines in migratory bird populations. And this could largely be contributed to habitat loss because there was global trends moving to kind of intensify coffee production. And what this meant was cutting down trees in order to plant coffee in full sun. because you can produce a greater amount of coffee in a shorter amount of time in coffee that's grown in full sun as opposed to in shade. So the regions that this was happening in are major coffee growing regions, obviously, but they also happen to be regions where birds overwinter. So our migratory birds that we see in North America and Canada will migrate to, Central South America. And this was obviously affecting them in a big way due to habitat loss. So the certification criteria that was actually developed uses a combination of canopy cover, tree diversity, and canopy height requirements. And these have been scientifically proven to really provide good quality habitat for the majority of migratory bird species. So with bird-friendly coffee, instead of cutting down the trees to plant coffee in their place, it's actually being integrated within forests that are already there. And so this provides really quality habitat for birds that do overwinter in these landscapes, because the system is called an agroforest and it mimics the natural forest that would already be there. So with the bird-friendly certification, since its development, it has really become just the gold standard in eco-friendly certifications. And it does more than other eco-friendly certifications to provide quality bird habitat. And this matters because, I don't know, maybe you have a favorite migratory bird, backyard bird. For example, a lot of people love the Baltimore Orioles because they're so bright. But when this bird leaves the United States or Canada in the fall to go overwinter in these regions, you obviously want it to have good complex shade, good forested habitat that, provides a lot of quality food sources so that it can build up its fat stores and have enough energy to then make a migration back to your backyard. But if these bird-friendly coffee farms don't exist or there's not forests being conserved, because coffee is such an important crop, then, these birds are going to arrive and they don't have that good forest resource and therefore don't have enough food to be able to successfully migrate and have enough energy to do so.
Right. So humor me this though. So we've seen when we're shopping for coffee, you can see shade grown and bird friendly. Are they the same? What's the difference? Is that
I keep saying the same, but I don't know if that's
in
the
the
same
livestock world. In the livestock world, we talk a lot about in the agriculture industry about marketing and labeling. And just for example, here's our educational ag tip of the day is, so on pork and poultry products, we will see a label that says no antibiotics ever. Well, pork and poultry, or no hormones, no added hormones. Well, pork and poultry products, they don't use added hormones like they do in the beef cattle industry. And so there's no possibility. And so is that is that kind of a mislabeling term where you get some people saying shade grown versus you getting their bird friendly certification just as a marketing aspect?
Yeah, I'm so happy that you brought this up because I think that this is a huge point of confusion for people. And I'll explain why. I mentioned before that the bird friendly certification has specific criteria that farms need to meet, and these farms are actually inspected and before they can become formally certified to make sure they are meeting the criteria. So specifically, the certification maintains quality habitat for birds by requiring that farms maintain 40% canopy cover, 11 different tree species at least, and a canopy height of at least 12 meters with 2 to 3 distinct canopy layers or strata. And then in addition, bird friendly is also USDA organic. So there's no harmful agrochemicals that might be harmful to birds or other pollinators. And because farmers and farms are required to meet these criteria in order to be formally certified, you as the consumer, every time you go buy coffee with a bird friendly logo on it, you know that your coffee is coming from a farm that is maintaining this complex shade for birds. So you know that it's protecting this habitat. However, in contrast, the term shade grown does not have a fixed criteria that farms need to meet. So again, kind of like what you were saying, this is more of a marketing term And it can be super ambiguous. So for example, you might find a coffee bag that claims to be, yeah, our coffee is shade grown, but without formal certification, it could be coming from a farm that has maybe like 1 or 2 trees with the whole plot of coffee. So you really have no way of knowing as the consumer if that farm is actually conserving quality bird habitat with just the term shade grown. But to go back to your original question, I think the reason that some of this is a little bit confusing is because sometimes we do use the term shade grown to describe bird friendly coffee, just to describe the concept, because a lot of people are not familiar to begin with what, the difference between shade grown coffee and sun grown coffee is. So that needs to be laid out first before you can kind of get into what more, or how bird friendly is more advanced, I guess, in its criteria. So, bird friendly coffee is shade grown, but shade grown coffee, just that term, is not bird friendly coffee unless it has been formally bird friendly certified. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for if you're concerned about, for sure, buying coffee that is conserving bird habitat.
That's so good to know.
point.
I'm so glad you asked that, Emily, because I live in a relatively small town. We're less than 20,000 people here in South Texas. And so in our grocery store, we're just limited in what's going to be available there. So it does not carry any coffee that has the bird friendly label, but it does have shade grown, which I've bought before. And I felt pretty good about it. And I'm assuming hopefully that's better than just, regular, but I hadn't thought about I'm really glad to hear that there's those specific requirements that y'all put on, because 20% canopy cover versus 40%, if there's a big difference there for birds, 20%, you could still say it's shade grown, but it's not actually doing what we need to do. So that's really, really good for me to learn about. I don't drink coffee super often, but that's good to know that there's those differences. Are there several brands that are certified as bird friendly? I know I mentioned Birds and Beans because they had sponsored us, but there's multiple brands that do have that certification?
Yeah. We I'll plug our website for a second. If you go to our where to buy page on Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center's website, specifically the bird friendly section, it lists all of our roasters, and there's quite a few that are certified now, and it even shows where to buy online if you don't have access to a grocery store or a coffee shop that sells it, within driving distance of you. So yeah, definitely check that out.
Perfect.
I'm trying to find the link and send it out. This says to buy it online. Okay, you're on it.
Yeah, I'm on it. I'll
put
it
email you
on
after this too.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Well, and I think the one thing that one thing that can deter people a little bit is the cost of some of these more specialty products or products kind of like the bird friendly coffee. So why is shade grown coffee more expensive? And you've kind of already answered this question, but let's kind of answer it again as to why it's more expensive than your regular old Folgers.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, shade grown coffee is considered a specialty coffee. So that means it can be sold on the specialty coffee market and it fetches a higher price just because it is higher quality. So coffee that's grown under shade, typically the bean develops a lot more slowly. So this results in better flavor. And then in Bird Friendly's case, it's also organic. So it's kind of a case of you get what you pay for when it comes to coffee in general. So, Bird Friendly coffee is coming often from smallholder producers or cooperatives, and that's a specialty market. Whereas, more large scale operations are coming from these large scale operations that are then on the commodity market. But for example, I kind of like to think of this like if you're, on the hunt for like strawberries or something or some kind of fruit, and you go to your local farmer's market and you buy these really fresh organic strawberries, and as opposed to, non-organic strawberries that you got at the supermarket. there's obviously you end up with the same fruit in the end. But there's definitely a distinct difference in quality and taste, and also where your money went buying that product, as well as, you know, the kind of environment what that was maintained around growing the crop, or what kind of methods that were used. So I think that's really important to keep in mind with coffee as well. And especially in coffee's case, many farmers are moving to remove shade altogether because they can produce more coffee in a shorter amount of time by growing it in the sun. So when you decide to buy coffee that is bird friendly certified, you're also incentivizing those farms and those farmers to maintain shade and maintain habitat, which is obviously better for the planet, and it's better for communities, and definitely better for birds.
So
Well,
it
and I think
grows. Go ahead. Sorry.
you go first, and then I'll go.
Well, I was going to say so that you're producing more coffee when it's in the sun than in the shade because it's growing. The beans are developing faster. Is that what I wasn't sure if it was there's fewer beans per tree or how that works.
I think, I mean, if you get rid of shade trees altogether, you can most likely plant more coffee plants, you know, because there's more room.
But that's true too. There's more room. Okay.
Yeah,
that was what I was curious about.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is that, yes, that it does develop more quickly in the sun. And they're also, I will say, like, generally, if it's full sun, they are using a lot more inputs because it's necessary at that point, because a lot of the ecosystem services that the shade trees provided are gone once they're removed. So they are using a lot more fertilizers, they're using a lot more agrochemicals. So it is produced more quickly, but definitely a lot of the quality is lost. And in general, with the 40% canopy cover that has been, you know, researched a lot and has been shown to maintain this good quality habitat for birds, you don't have a ton of loss in yields. It's just that definitely with sun-grown, these large scale operations, they are just, the main goal is to produce as much coffee in as little amount of time. Whereas, you know, yields are still definitely important to farmers with shade grown systems, but it's just done in a lot different way. And a lot of the ecosystem services that the shade trees provide eliminate the need to use a lot of fertilizers or agrochemicals. So there's kind of a cost balance that comes into play there too. Like, it might be, you know, you might produce more coffee in a shorter amount of time, but you're also spending a ton of money on fertilizers and agrochemicals. Whereas with bird friendly, you're producing, you know, coffee more slowly, but you're not spending as much money on things like that. So it does balance out somewhat.
And another ecosystem service directly related to, we're talking about birds, right, is that birds will eat insect pests. I don't know if there's insect pests of coffee plants. I know that when we talk about, like, you know, bats and corn pests or cotton pests, but I'm assuming there's some things that would like to eat coffee and coffee beans that the birds probably help.
A big pest is the coffee berry borer, and there's been a ton of studies to show, you know, the insect control or almost natural pest control that birds provide, especially with that specific pest. Definitely encourage people to look up there's some really great research papers on that. And you're right that it has been shown that birds provide this natural pest control when trees are maintained, because they are drawn to the habitat and eating those insects, as opposed to, again, full sun, they end up needing to use insecticides or pesticides because those birds are no longer present.
So let me ask this question, which may be, this may be a really stupid question, but I'm just curious. And I think I know the answer, but I'm just going to clarify.
Sure.
So sometimes in our agricultural crop production world, birds can be a pest and eat the crop.
Mm-hmm.
Birds don't eat coffee beans, right?
That's a good question. I think I'm not sure entirely which birds do and which birds don't. I think in general, most of the birds in bird-friendly coffee plantations are insectivores, maybe. But that's a good question. I'll have to ask my coworker Ruth about that.
You can tell which ones are eating the coffee beans because they like fly around really fast and they're like
Right.
all hyped up on. I'm kidding.
I know that it's not a huge problem though.
Okay,
for sure.
so that was, I guess, my question.
Yeah. No, it's generally they don't. If they are eating a coffee fruit, it's definitely more minimal. They're not like flying in and decimating a crop like a lot of things in more maybe like United States agriculture or ranching or something.
Well, you think of a coffee bean being hard and not something I think anybody would want to eat. Like, to me, it doesn't sound like something a bird would want to eat or consume. And so I was kind of
it's not like birds coming through, like it's one thing when they come through like a cherry orchard or something, you're like, yeah, those are delicious. Like raw coffee beans, you're not like,
I just am not thinking that that's something that they're going to go, yum, 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 yum. No, I agree.
Well, and so speaking of insectivores, Adeline mentioned the Baltimore Orioles are one thing that people think about, but I'm going to share my screen real quick because since we're here in Texas and this is a favorite across all of Texas, I wanted everybody to see this map for painted buntings and where they spend their winter, because this is a big time favorite here in Texas. Is they're going to breed up here, really mostly in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and then they're going to spend the winter really in this area that we're talking about, right, Adeline? Like this is what we're talking about. This is where this coffee is being grown. So if you love painted buntings, and this is a subject that I'm really passionate about because I did my dissertation on migratory birds, but we have to think about not just where they're breeding. That's important because that's where they're making more birds, but we've got to think about that whole, where are they migrating, where are they spending the winter? And so if you love painted buntings, for example, Emily, I looked up, I double checked indigo buntings, same area, basically. That's one of Emily's favorites. And yeah, so if those are species that you in Texas love to see during the breeding season, those are the species that are hanging out here where we're growing coffee in the winter. So
yes, definitely a great example.
Well, and I had another question because you talked about how that coffee develops slower, and that bean develops slower, and it's going to provide a richer and more high quality product. What, in comparison to high quality coffee beans out there, because like I'm a Starbucks Folgers kind of gal, like. But I mean, my coffee taste buds aren't, I guess, they're not great. So I guess my question is, in the market of coffees, how does bird-friendly coffee cost-wise compare to some of those premium coffee products that are just that upper echelon in terms of flavor and taste, like you kind of discussed, as that bean develops slower?
Oh, like they're sun grown still, but they're considered like the other specialty coffees. Like, how does the cost compare?
Yeah, like if you were buying specialty good coffee, go. That's the question.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll say that in the coffee world, there's a ton of different factors that lead to the end price. You know, a lot of times farmers will set the price and there will be like a specific buyer. Most likely, for example, there's like really specialty roasters and maybe you have some in mind or something, but they might have like exclusive deals with farmers, or maybe they're getting just one batch of really good coffee that's really rare or like really unique. And that's gonna, you know, fetch a higher price than just your average commodity sun-grown coffee. And especially if there's a certification attached to it, so like organic or fair trade, those automatically are fetching a certain price that's set. And then on top of that, you know, they might roast it a certain way, or again, there's just so many different factors that it's hard to pinpoint one. But you know, so like bird-friendly coffee, it might not necessarily be more expensive in certain cases than specialty coffee in general, or what you're saying, like more premium coffee. But it really just depends on where it's coming from, what farmers and roasters have, you know, talked about, or maybe importer prices. So there's a lot going on there as far as what the ultimate end price is.
So Emily and I are famous for running over, but I actually have back-to-back meetings this morning. So I'm going to try to keep us on time, close to 8 o'clock. And I have another question. Emily brought up that she loves stopping at Starbucks. We've got a great local coffee shop here in Uvalde. But what are there coffee shops that serve bird-friendly coffee? And if they don't, how, like, are you aware of local places that will sell that? And if they don't, how can you as a consumer say, hey, I would totally love it if you offered bird-friendly coffee at this coffee shop? Is that something y'all have worked with some of the big names like Starbucks to try to encourage?
Yeah. So definitely there are coffee shops that serve bird friendly. Again, on that where to buy page, you can see all of the roasters that are currently bird friendly certified, and many of them have physical locations that they are serving bird friendly coffee at. We're always looking to add more roasters. So, and I definitely encourage you, just if you're not sure if your favorite coffee shop serves bird friendly coffee, definitely just ask. That's the first step. They should be able to tell you, baristas are trained on what coffee they're serving, what certifications are associated with those coffees. And if you're shopping for coffee, whether it's at a coffee shop or a grocery store or your local co-op, definitely look for the bird friendly seal on the bag, because that will tell you automatically whether it's bird friendly certified or not. If it doesn't have the label, then okay, this is not bird friendly certified, even if it says shade grown. And definitely when you go to your coffee shop and maybe they're not sure what bird friendly is, or maybe they don't serve it, I encourage everybody to, whether it's, in person or over the phone or over email or through a coffee shop's or a grocery store's website, to express how interested you are in having them serve bird friendly and asking that they do, or sending them more information like our website. Because ultimately consumer demand is the most important thing to companies. So if they see that their customers are asking for the specific certification, they will have more incentive to buy from bird-friendly farms and bird-friendly farmers, which in turn incentivizes farmers to stay in our program or join our program. And then ultimately that leads to more habitat for birds being conserved. And just for the future, we are currently actually developing kind of a bird-friendly ambassadors toolkit for people who do want to advocate further for bird-friendly coffee. So this will have really nice background information on the bird-friendly certification. It will have advocacy tools, kind of how to talk about it with people or how to approach contacting somebody. So definitely look out for that in the future. We do have currently a letter to the manager it can be found in our FAQ section. I think it's the last question. And that's like a printable kind of PDF that you can basically drop off at a coffee shop, just kind of as a guide to start a conversation.
You're muted, Maureen.
Here we go. I just pulled up the map and it reminded me, I wasn't even thinking about this, but in Logan, Utah, Cafe Ibis that I love, they do serve bird-friendly coffee, but there are none currently in Texas. And so if there's anybody watching out there who owns a coffee shop, how cool would that be if you were the first coffee shop in Texas to serve bird-friendly coffee?
It would be.
Yeah.
It would be super neat. Maureen, I know we have got to keep on time today. So everybody.
Okay, but I have one more. I have a barista question.
Yes.
Oh.
Because, okay.
Are you going to ask how they make the designs? Because I want to know that.
Well, it's about the designs. I want to know, can you do a bird? Is that a skill you have?
Yeah, I have done them before. It's been a while since I poured a latte. It's been a couple years now at least, but definitely I can email you later. I've done a toucan before.
Oh my
but
gosh.
there's ways
If
you can
we'll share it on our Facebook. Like we'll put it with this post because I want to see what that looks like. So
okay.
Awesome. Yeah. And maybe we'll have a future cup chat where we have a lesson on how to do designs on coffee that's only tangentially related to birds, but
yeah.
Related,
Awesome.
But, It works. Well, anyways, I know we've got to kind of keep moving. Maureen has meetings all day today, and I am about to go have fun with 3 little kiddos at STEM camp. So it's going to be a fun morning, but I really enjoyed starting our morning off with you, Adeline, and understanding the process of shade grown versus bird friendly coffee. And then those requirements that those farmers and ranchers in South America are meeting to get that accreditation and that certification to provide that premium product to everybody here in the United States. So thank you so much for all the work that you do and joining us this morning. And we hope everyone has a very happy Wednesday. The week is halfway over. And so we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. Question mark, Maureen? Yeah.
Question mark. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We'll let you know when we'll be back. Summer is crazy, guys. So, but thank you so much for joining us and have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.